Boss, and we are doing a nonfiction edit today, so get excited. This will be pretty fun, I think. I'm a little sleepy because I did not sleep so great last night, but I will continue forward and hopefully get some good notes for this awesome writer. So we've read this one before, we've read earlier drafts, and so you can always go back to the recorded videos and reread this and see what kind of how it's changed. But without further ado, we're gonna jump in because it is already 10:50. The nurse pulled off her gloves with a snap and smiled. You're all set. I just left the table and grimaced. The cramping when she inserted the ID was mild, dwarfed by the relief for the next 5 years until 2017. The pregnancy would be one less. That for the next 5 years until pregnancy would be one less thing. One less thing. Okay, outside the clinic. My phone vibrated. I sighed. Mom again and tapped the green icon. And we're loving those M dashes. It's not too bad though. We've had a lot of parentheses pretty close. Parentheticals, I mean, pretty close to each other. Um, I could write this. Evening, Trip the Wolf. How are you? Great to see you. How's it going? Doing an edit tonight, so get excited. I should have put that to art, but now it is there. So get hype, and welcome. This is where we get to talk a lot about the writing principles. So this will hopefully be some good learning as you're going about your writing stuff. And as always, remember you can submit your work. So feel free to let me know if you ever want something edited. The queue is empty right now, so we have some extra room. Would there be another way to express this? Two parentheticals, so close feels clunky. Outside the clinic, my phone vibrated. Maybe it's something like... Oh wait, I gotta turn on track changes here. I want something different here. I want some indications. This is a bad example because I am really tired. But yeah, this is a bad example. Ugh, my allergies are killing me. No, that's rough. Yeah, and I think that the goal here is, not the fact that I think that sentence is wrong or anything like that. It's more We have a parenthetical kind of dealing a moment like that, like the 5 years later, just a second ago. And can we just get that mom moment any other way? So can we have that same exact emotional beat, which I think you deliver really well, get a little bit more of a different skin, I think, in some ways. Finally got to play Gen Zero. Nice. I don't know exactly. Is that one of like the Lifeline games? I sighed mom again. Tapped the green icon beneath her brightness in her voice. What's she up to? Oh my gosh. I hesitated. I didn't think she'd like where I'd been, but I wasn't gonna lie to her either. Moments later, confirmation. Is that? I wasn't sure of the enactment, but did it matter? I wasn't convinced. I think I just go like this. Did it matter? I wasn't convinced. Alright, time to put the other headphone on. Meow meow, squealing. Nope, it's a first person survival shooter thing on Steam. When I got it, had horrible optimization, huh? Over optimized to the point of sub optimized. Alright, to tune out a whining cat. Wasn't for sports wall. So a lot of this is just cutting out qualifiers. A lot of qualifiers. I think this needs to scale up a little bit more in terms of intensity. I want to see this have intensity. That's kind of what these edits are attempting. The intensity rise in this section. It should feel. This would be bad, but this would be way worse. Yeah. A lump of fear settled in my stomach. Register of languages here. Yeah, it's the constant proximity to another's struggles, being responsible for their care but helpless to fix their pain. That's a really high register of language. And that, again, when you're shifting your language register to something that's much more impersonal and didactic, it's going to zoom the camera out, and it'll be harder for the reader to kind of have that emotional, because, like, when like a college professor, you're much less, invested in a college professor than you are someone who you go party with. Like, it's not the same relationship. So having a better, a more personable register of language. So, like, this could be like, example. Seems a little bit more of a transition. I think that's the right word. I think that's the right word. Sub, I think. Oh, sub optimization. I see. Oof, so bright. Yeah, I'm putting this on night mode. Boom. And you're going on night mode. Yes. Everyone's going on. Ah, my eyes can rest at last. It's like the brightness turned up on this. I don't get it. It is. Well, F me. That'll do it. That'll start drilling a hole in your head. Peace at last. Like, cut it off with a sharp inhale. Not sure what that means. Does that means like on the phone, like that's kind of an intense way to cut someone off, but I respect it. Um, a hiss? What does a sharp just cut to the dialogue? Yeah, if you want to do an interruption, you can sometimes just get away with it with signaling. Thinking clearly. I'm going to call. Uh, I kind of. I just want to signal that it's a lie, maybe. Maybe even a hint that there's. So Mom was talking about. All right, so this note here is I didn't see the logic or the appeal. So those are kind of the same note, but you might be able to get more leverage out of it. So those are so it's like your last word, pretty much of the. It's your last word of the paragraph, your last word of the section. Let that word, that noun, the logic or the comfort. Like, what is all this pain, avoidance coming from? It's this loss of comfort, this need to insulate oneself. So appeal is so general. I would wonder if there's a more specific instrument you can think about that might be able to represent what you're trying to say a little bit better. So that would just be my only thought. The leaves plucked at the fading October treetops, and the sun shone directly through the delicate fall. I like that opening imagery. I see that we're shifting time. It's a very hint. It's a hint at that thing, but we don't know what month this is in. I see what you're trying to do, and I actually think it's really good, but because there's not a clear starting point, like I'm not getting a season here. Outside the clinic, you know, in the um yeah, so like if you're gonna use October as like a later um see, she's quiet at last. Come here, beast. Look at this cat. What a lard. What a useless lard of a cat you are. But you're here. Alright, this Charlie thing I think is like pretty close because it's very directly mentioned afterwards. Yeah. I mean, you could also do a thing where it's like months later. Um, uh, okay. Yeah, this could be a better way of doing it, and just like without having to like mention every single month. That might be better, just to like so the reader can say, oh, that was probably in summertime then. A breeze plucked through the fading October treetops, and the sun shone hazily through the delicate fog. I wonder if this so first there needs to be a comma here. Second, I wonder if you can get a better verb. So this shown hazily is a really weak, not like a terrible, but it's a weaker verb construction. I wonder if it could be something like that's a bad example, but hard to do it when I had a little bit of insomnia, so I'm a little sleepy. But and the delicate fog refracted into bars. Hello, cat. Halfway there, a twinge in the back of my throat dragged my attention to the red-brown leaves. From the red-brown leaves and thrust it into a mini whirl of anxiety. I don't know. I don't know if this is fitting. This needs to tie in or it needs to go. This is an interesting segment, but and would have a place in a pure character study. this is a pointed essay, and I don't see clearly enough how this fits into the point. Stream from the next door window. I watched the lights twinkle. I heard the festive lyrics, but sat untouched by the cheer. I need to experience this. What does this mean? This is an abstraction, right? This is an abstraction. What was the sensory, experience of being untouched by cheer? My body, from my stomach to my toes, felt cold, and the whole. That's an example of using what the character is physically experiencing to get that. We see the cheer, and then we get a sample of the character's experiences, which are the exact inverse of fear. I was mired in a cloud of existential angst. Yeah, I think again, this is another show don't tell, right? So you can say, it was made in a world of ash. Yeah, like think about, yeah. Yeah, I'm just gonna go ahead and paste this into context because I want to try to read it with the addition, right? I watched the lights twinkle, heard the festive lyrics from my body, from my stomach to my toes, felt cold, and the whole world looked like it was made of ash. An unstoppable question hung around my neck, dragging my nose down to the untouched plate on the dinner table. My dinner table. What was the point of all this? Oh, maybe. Stream from the next door window. Yeah, maybe this is a different detail. Maybe this is a. I turned to my friend sitting beside me. Life was good. Everything was fine, but I didn't feel fine. What was I feeling? Scared, lost. I'd always thought the purpose of life was to grab hold of as much happiness as possible. Happiness was fragile. On my way over to blaring sirens in the wide. Yeah, again, that above section just does not seem to fit in with this yet. Maybe perhaps can. I liked the idea of avoidance of pain. So like, how does this doesn't really relate to a pain avoidance, right? Hmm. On my way to da, da, da. I like this verb dynamited, but it's a little bit unclear. Logical trusted friend. The face of the foolish cracked. Yeah, I think sometimes the ordering feels a little weird in some of these sentences. Not necessarily all of them. I think 90% of them are fine. I feel like a few of them seem to have weird inversions in them. I can't really pin exactly what it is just yet. That's making them kind of feel oddly flipped, I guess, a little bit. But I will continue to investigate. Nah, it's too tacky over the rubble of my script. No. Let me think. I walked home carrying her words. I picked up a small little Bible used as calling science to. A fugitive presenting false papers. I like this. Great. Back at my apartment, I opened it and scanned. See, that's the thing. We haven't seen an example of this. We haven't seen a clear-cut example of this. We don't see a clear-cut. The mom thing is just a mom being annoying, and the brother thing is a little under, isn't, fully developed. I need to see an example of you running, or of the speaker running from pain if she's going to say that she always avoids painful situations. Yeah, I think that's a big note. This is a big crux part of your story, but you haven't earned it yet, I think, in this draft. In the previous draft, you had more. I honestly think that one about your friend, that kind of anecdote about your friend calling and wanting to talk about her boyfriend, even though I kind of made a reference to it earlier, might be a good fit or something. I want to have some conflict in it too. I think one of the things that couldn't hurt is I want to see some of that internal conflict of you feeling guilty that you're not going to go see your friend, and maybe you rationalize for it with like, hey, I think I have this thing in my throat, whatever it is. And I already have enough problems. I already have enough things to worry about. I can't worry about anybody else. I can't worry about anybody else. But whatever that is, I think there needs to be some sort of thematic shorthand to this thing. I would really try, and I'm going to write this on my recommendations down here. I'm going to write some recommendations down here. Try to define a 3-word phrase, 3 or less word phrase that epitomizes this pain avoidance and let it, recur through the story. I had enough problems, you know. Or, I don't know. Yeah, but it needs some sort of shorthand. With some internal conflict about whether or pain yeah, I'd be like, it can't be my problem, or, their plane would bleed into me, or their pain would bleed over, or whatever that is. You'll want to try to recur those types of things through the story. Yeah, so we don't get this. This really is not a present thought anymore. This, idea doesn't seem set up in this draft at all. Next to my new apartment building was an old Catholic church. The back of its quiet beauty, the dusty pink interior, and high dome ceilings. I think the thing that you have to remember is in these essays, it's actually not okay to have something that's extra. Every single thing has to be driving towards your point. Every single thing. And I think what's happening is there's a little bit of allowance. You're giving yourself some allowance to be like, well, this isn't really about pain avoidance, but it's part of this journey. But whenever you come in and you tell me that your journey is about pain avoidance, even if it's an actual part of that journey, it, but it's not part of the journey that has to do with pain avoidance, the reader is going to like raise their hand. So I think that's going to be my other big recommendation is like, everything needs to come down to the, avoidance of pain versus pain with faith question. Or it needs to be cut. That's how you're framing the, pro-life view, is that it's pain, it's embracing pain with faith, even if there's, risk and everything says otherwise. So, cannot give yourself allowance to have anything in this story that doesn't directly talk on that issue, or a scene, or present a scene that doesn't have that question as its subtext. So like the Danielle scene has that question as its subtext, which is it's the character going through and saying, "Hey, I've been avoiding pain all this time. I've been working so hard to be happy and avoid pain that I'm realizing that it just I can't. It still gets me. It still finds me. Everything still has this like, you know, impression of emptiness." That other question about, just having that OCD thought about um, having throat cancer, that doesn't really that doesn't talk about a pain avoidance. That just talks about a neuroses or a uncomfortable thing that happened. But that doesn't have a choice inherent. That just means like, oh, that's an uncomfortable thought. That's uncomfortable. I'm weird and different. That does not have anything to do with this particular essay, I would say. Unless, of course, you frame it in a way that's like, oh, well, I would never have a kid because I would never want to pass on OCD to them or whatever that is. Um, but yeah, those are the types of things you cannot, I think, at this phase allow anything that doesn't have a very clear, and it doesn't have to be like super overt. It can be subtext, but at least a subtextual line to the theme, which is avoidance of pain versus pain acceptance with faith. That faith lets us accept pain. And that can even come in. That can even come in up here when she's talking, when the speaker is talking to Charlie. Like this could be like last time I checked. It was my smart, normal people. Oh, not for me. And the peel. The grand, but the grand strawberry cream French toast. Well, that's another story. And I also want to see some more of those direct address. Remember, you're kind of like that last time I checked, like that's a direct address. Like you're kind of talking to your audience a little bit. I think it's okay to do that and to be aware of your audience and to give some of that personality across. I feel like it's a little light. I mean, I don't think it's necessary in every nonfiction story, but I think it's a little light here, and I think without it, you sometimes will have a predisposition to become very formal in your language, which, again, has its merits, but is not very conducive to connecting with an audience in like a really great and clear and sharp way. So those are kind of the trade-offs that you're going to be looking at. All right. Yeah. Yeah, but right now this revelation doesn't seem earned yet. I would really say I can see text. Ah, I know. I know. Thank goodness. Yeah, I've been kind of shaking my head a little bit. See, when my cat sits quietly, she gets rewarded. Next to my new apartment building was an old Catholic church. Yeah, I think this is a great necessary thing. I think this is a really necessary step. I think it just whoopsie, I threw my screen somewhere. Okay. This is a great and necessary part of the journey. I almost don't feel like the above. I almost feel like this is extra. Am I being crazy? Yeah, I feel like that's not necessary. I like it. It's a great scene, but it's repeating. This is repeating the same bait, and this is better. I say, this is repeating the same beat as above. Reluctant fascination with faith, but this definitely shows it more visually. Perhaps. I'm not sure if I agree with this full cut. Maybe this can be combined. I don't know. I don't think you'll see that anything's missing if you cut that section. Back in the table, the doctor's office tried to explain to the meeting nurse why I wanted my IDs removed less than 6 months after having it inserted. Was I trying to get pregnant? Whoa. Time's jumping around. Has this all happened in a 6-month scheme? I did not get that impression. Yeah. Maybe it's like, I don't know. No, was it because you pay now? New release. Yeah, I really think we need a scene. I think the thing that's missing is take out this scene and above it in its place, and take out this one or make this about your friends again. Yeah, I want an intense conflict-driven scene where you do something bad because, you know, you want to avoid pain more than doing the right thing. I want conflict. Gosh darn it. I want conflict. I want a big moment here. I feel like we're missing that. Really, at a fundamental level. Everything else works. I feel like the two problems is this section here. This section here needs to change or be cut. It needs to focus on what it needs to be. And then this section is just a duplicate. It's not that big of a deal, but everything else is paying off on this idea. Everything else is touching on this idea of embracing pain, embracing pain, but we don't have a scene where you're avoiding pain. Like the thing, it's what's good is everything else is pointing to this idea of embracing pain, but then there's nothing that it's pointing to. There's no visual that I can take away as a reader of this is what it's like. This is an example of someone avoiding pain and it having a terrible price. Um, so I think that's something that's really, 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 really missing. And I don't know if it was there in part in the other draft because you had that moment with your friend who was hurting from a breakup and you decided to not go see and nurture that friend. You decided not to go talk to that friend, or the speaker decided not to go talk to that friend, and then in turn they went off and just had coffee or something. That I need something like that. That can work. That scene can work. But if you really want to make this story pack a punch, make it something really vulnerable. you know, that's probably hard. But something that where there really was a price. Give me some stakes. Um, I really want to see a price to you to the speaker giving into this. There's no real stakes in a lot of these, which is the one downside. Want to see the price of avoidance. The price you were. I think like everything else is really firing well on all cylinders. I think that's the one thing that's missing, and it's a fundamental thing that's missing. I would say we really really need it. Um, yeah, but we just need a good scene that really is just all about that, not about anything else, just all about pain avoidance, and it just shows me the cost. I need one really really vivid and dark scene. I'm gonna write it down here. I need one really vivid, stakes driven, conflict driven scene in place, perhaps, of the OCD scene that shows me the cost, the moral cost of pain avoidance. How you did something wrong in your quest to avoid pain. I don't know. This is maybe too prescriptive, but try to think beyond the note. I guess. Well, you can. Like think, just know that there's something very fundamental missing. I need to experience pain avoidance. Is more what I'm trying to say. I'll just write that in. Obviously it doesn't need to exactly be this, but I, as the reader, need to really believe that the speaker's biggest issue is as a person is that they avoid pain at all costs, even wounding others. I need to learn that about the speaker, and you can't just tell me. You can't just say, "Oh, I've always thought this." It has to be something experienced. I have to experience that, and I think you're doing so well. So that's why I'm a little bit more rah 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 about it because it's very close. It's like it's kind of the cyclone is the spiral's tightening in a lot of ways, and I think it just needs that last kind of scene. And I also think like doing some of the echoing, like in that scene, if you can take a phrase or a couple of words and have them echo throughout, that'll lend that scene resonance. It'll let that scene function bigger. So like get that really big pillar scene that shows me the pain avoidance at its most human and raw and ugly, and then show me the rationalization happening everywhere else with some lines like, oh, like wasn't my problem, wasn't my problem, wasn't whatever that is, and that might offer some good insights. Sorry, tirade complete. Again, this is a feels like a little different. This feels a little different than avoiding pain. Mm. Um, like this. Yeah, I think I like this especially because I've read your other. I missed the part you were talking about the three-word refrain. That's neat. Yeah. I mean, it's not necessarily always required, but if there are some fundamental ideas that need to echo across a short fiction piece or even a novel, um, finding a way, like literally just writing down, and kind of what the recommendation is just go and sit down and think about your theme. Find a not on the nose way of talking about it, like, you know, and something that relates to the world. Like I'm trying to think about in the novel. I didn't do it actually so much in my novel, which I wish I had maybe. But a lot of it was repeating about like necessity and that we have to do this for necessity and stuff like that. So it's just like trying to have a shorthand for some of the bigger concepts because if you always talk about, you know, my avoidance of blah 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 blah, it'll be harder for the reader. But if you have like a kind of a quippy one line about like you know, like it wasn't my problem. It wasn't my problem. Think about Star Wars when they say, what do they always say? I got a bad feeling about this. As silly as that is, you know, it lends resonance. And then it cues up all context with it because whenever they say I've got a bad feeling about this, that something that's understatement. That, oh man, this is a gross understatement. Something way worse is about to happen, so I'm gonna sit to the edge of my seat and try to figure out what's going on. And that's kind of the goal: is that can you build that shorthand? Can you construct a little miniature version of shorthand for the emotions you want in the reader and seed them throughout the novel or the source or the nonfiction in this case? Um, but yes, everybody who's watching, my queue is empty right now. My editing queue, so I don't even have something to follow up this read with. So let that be let that be maybe a source of encouragement, perhaps a thrilling conclusion. You know, I want to see the temptation of giving into fear here. Um, so think about this. Chrissy, think about some of the phrasing and diction you can use, and I think it's happening organically. So first off, the old way of thought, the anxious way of thought, is generally, I've been noticing it being constructed with a series. So, like, let's look at the examples of anxious thoughts that you have. There's your mother's anxious thoughts, where she's kind of, oh goodness, where'd it go? Is it, am I at the top? Oh yeah, so here we get this string of anxious thoughts. Had I talked to him lately? He'd been voicing strange ideas, something about the apocalypse. He's not thinking clearly. So you've done a good job of having anxious thoughts always be fractured and generally questions. So like quick, rapid fire, fragmentary questions. So use that awesome hard work you've put in, and when the character is tempted to revert, which is what's happening down here, when the character is tempted to revert in this evaluation, give us a couple of rapid fire questions, right? My heart constricted. What if my baby wasn't healthy? You know, what if there wasn't a genetic problem? There's no way. No way to treat that. Those. Then you can go. You either carried the pregnancy or you ended it. My thoughts proud. So then it gives us the temptation. It connects. So that's the thing. You can use the language as well to build the connection. So just in the same way we were talking about, can we have some nouns? Can we have a set of words or a small phrase that can build the connections throughout these vignettes? Because that's going to be the biggest challenge you're going to have in this story. Whenever you're operating with a lot of vignettes that tie together, it's going to be turning them into a whole. So I think one of the ways that you can do that is by both using, similar phrasing, similar words, similar XYZ, and then also using similar language and similar sentence structure, similar stylistic elements. Then you can do like thematic, like there's other ways to connect it as well, but like those are the ones that I think that you're going to most likely be using here. And that might be a really good way of saying, hey, this character is getting tempted to revert to fear. They're getting tempted to go back to fear. So that's a really, I think you set up a really good scheme of representing fear. I'm going to go ahead and write that in, in the, this is a moment of temptation. This is where the character will want to return to their old patterns. So use those awesome devices you use to represent those old patterns. I.e., which is, oh wow, you can't even see that, huh? Which is, sentence fragments, questions, and a like quick, fluttering pace. All right. Also, I did want to say, yeah, I like that you're mirroring some similar phrases across your essays, which I think is a really great tool, a really great thing to do especially if you ever want to publish an essay collection. Because it's going to be the same challenge, right? As you're going to have a lot of essays, they're going to feel like vignettes, and then your goal is going to be to tie all those together and to make them into a greater story if you ever want to go to essay collection, or if you just want to build a world with your essays. So stuff like this is really great, where you're mirroring some of the imagery and the scenes between these essays, because then the reader will be like, oh, there's a bigger journey going on. This connects to that. I don't need to see exactly how it connects, but I know that these two journeys intersect at least in this moment. And that is really, really valuable. I think it's a really good thing you're doing. And that's kind of what we're trying to do in the context of this essay as its own body as well, and try to make all the limbs and the arms and the legs all tie together, and not just be kind of separate. That's what a wonderful metaphor. That's I can blame my metaphoric shenanigans on shenanigans. My metaphoric lassitude, whatever it is. All right, my thoughts flashed to mass previous Sunday. Keep nearly peeled from the altar below. Phone to the left of the cast. Crucified Jesus with a smaller statue. Mary, Mother of God. Mary stood, eyes cast slowly down. I really like that. That's really good. I think this is a really great turn. Yeah. The only thing is that we spend a lot of time talking about disabilities, about yeah, that doesn't really find closure because there's a lot of reasons to not, go forward with certain things. To bring on the hospital, you're napping now. I mean, obviously, like for like the baby book thing, I feel a little impositional editing this, but I'm going to anyways because I'm a cruel monster. But this that your mind phrase feels a little out of place. Um, and it doesn't feel like it belongs in a conclusion because it does have that air of possessiveness that necessarily can have negative connotations. So that might hint that the character isn't really growing and hasn't reached a conclusion. Um, so yeah, this would be like this phrase strikes little a little odd. There was once pain and uncertainty in my head. I kept Mary in my head. I kept repeating, "I forget to God, Thy will be done." Like God, I do whatever the commands doors had to trust. Now that you're in the world. Hmm. I like this because it's conversational in tone. This is like one of the first times. It's actually a pretty big shift in tone because it's so conversational and so much of the other writing is fighting towards formality, which I think if you could think about trying to maybe address this whole essay to Liam, right? And thinking with that audience in mind, and that might help a lot. Zero cousin once removed. Wow, that's a zilchith cousin. Son-in-law, the in-laws. I really like this conversational. I mean, it's yeah. Okay. Now let's try the world. I'll do everything to keep you safe, but even more so. In the room, so much of your life will be out of my control. I can't promise. Hmm. Beware exclamation points. They are very seldom necessary. I can't promise to keep because they always come with the connotation like they sometimes have like a saccharine happiness like but even so even more so than in the room so much of your life will be outside of my control. Like, that's kind of how I read exclamation points. Just unless it's like absolutely critical, I would avoid them. So much of your life will be outside of my control. Whoa. Sorry, it's late. My brain is starting to turn into mush, which is pretty obvious. I can't promise to keep you away from pain. In fact, I can promise you life will be painful, but I hope there is no trust God in all things. And that as a result, your life and choices will be guided by love. Again, this isn't really tying into the theme because the theme is not about whether or not we will have pain. It's about how we approach it, whether we go towards it or away from it. Whether we go towards it or away from it. Remember, that's your theme. At least that's what I've been getting as your theme. And some of these other sections aren't really clicking with that yet. So I think this does not yet fit, I will say, with pretty much this doesn't yet fit with your theme. Because you never question whether or not there will be pain, but how we should confront it, towards or away. I'm trying to think. What else do I think here? This does the one downside of this last section is it really pulls the journey out. Like it separates the character a little bit. It makes it has kind of another main character. Maybe that's your goal. And obviously, like there's pros and cons, right? Because this doesn't feel like it's about your journey. It feels like it's about the kid, which is totally okay, but I kind of want to see that in the context of your journey because I've been on your journey the whole time. And maybe it's something about how when you went towards pain in the process of whatever, this new person was produced. So I still I'm gonna be Danielle's gonna be like, what did you're telling Chrissy not to have this awesome thing. I think this is necessary. I think this last piece can work. I think it just still needs more work. This doesn't feel like it's operating in the context of your journey. This has become about and maybe it's about the baby. Maybe that's your goal. But Miak, how's it going? Welcome. Hey, you know what, Miak? I have a few more minutes on my edit, so maybe I'll pull up your weblog and I'll read the first section. Let me know if you want me to give notes or not, because I can just read it and just enjoy it, or I can give notes. So, food for thought. I'll let you decide, because I have nothing in the editing queue, and I know you've been wanting me to read it, so that'll be a fun little thing to do for the last little bit. I'm fading pretty fast, so I may not spend too much time on it, and I'll have to read the rest myself. But it's become about the baby. I mean, that's your goal, but I want to see this in the context of how you've changed your approach to pain. I think the advice part of it works, but I want at least a little bit of info on how this has or a realization you had about pain avoidance. Because remember, I mean, that's the thing. This is shifted very much away from like your initial theme. Again, except for this bit here. But the things that shifted away from that theme are the fact that you don't tie up the question of the disfigured, or sorry, the genetic deformities. I would say consider doing something to tie up the question of genetic deformities, genetic issues or cut that altogether. Last section needs to still be about your journey. Right now it feels like it shifts to I would say, and I'll scroll down so everybody can see. I will say I think you really, really, really want to continue to focus. This last section feels like it's a waiver. I don't think it's completely unnecessary. I don't have a red line through it, but I feel I don't want edits at the moment just because I don't have time to capitalize on it and do edits for a while. So maybe is it okay if I just read it, or are you good to, or would you rather not have anything on screen? Let me know. I'm open, and I can just read it. I can also just spin down screen. All right, then maybe I'll read it. I think I have it bookmarked somewhere. It's in Discord. Yes, it's in Discord. That's right. But anyways, focus is the challenge in this essay at its core, whether I like it or not. All right. Well, maybe I'll just have a few learning moments come out of it, but nothing, no in-depth edit. I'll just kind of be like, oh, like I see what you're doing here. This is cool and stuff like that. All right. Anyways, you'll have your first literary critique. Won't that be fun? But yeah, the thing with this essay, I think that still is challenging, is you're getting tempted, Chrissy. You're getting tempted to do some repetition, which is this. This is kind of repetitive. This one's less of a focus issue. This is the focus issue here. This is a big issue of focus. Has nothing to do with your essay right now. It could get tweaked to make sense in the context of what you're trying to say. And there is some loss of focus here. So I think that this Mary thing is really pretty, but you are building up towards a question around children with disability, and you had that scene that addressed that had a conclusion to that, and that's gone and missing. So I think that's a bit of a drawback. I think actually, I think I wrote that in here. Yeah, kind of. Yeah. Okay, it doesn't really find closure. Yeah, I kind of say enough there. And this, I think, is it's beautifully written. It's a great section, but is it focused enough yet to be a part of a whole? No, I don't think so. I think it can be with some tweaks. It needs to still. What's happening is the main character has shifted. The main character in Little Buddy's Baby Book is not the speaker, it's the speaker's child. And the main character shifts, and then we're talking to that, which is a cool literary device, and I'm actually okay with it. but within that context, we still need to get closure on the speaker's journey. So the speaker can be talking to the child, but I still want to see closure on going towards pain or away from pain, and how that connects with, the questions of pre-life that you're addressing, or, having a kid when it's difficult versus not. Those are getting lost. Those questions are getting lost, and that was your goal when you set out. So, yes, I think also my one thing is like, I think you're getting close to having done enough. I think, do one more draft. Maybe, you can send it to us. Maybe just publish it at that point. Because I think I'm noticing it getting to the point where there's just like nitpicking, and same with me. And I do that with my stories too. So I would challenge you just to say, hey, get it as good as you can get it. Have somebody just check for spelling, and then, say go and send it on out. I would recommend this being, I'd recommend this being, doing one more, revision with these notes, and then trying to publish. No need to over nitpick too much, because I don't want to, because I get the sense that like it's getting to the place where like, it's almost where it needs to be. So I don't think I would recommend doing a bunch more stuff, very much more. I would say you've probably, as a writer, learned all you're going to learn from this essay, from at least my third point of view. I think you've learned what you're going to learn. You've tweaked your style in amazing ways. I think this is really transformed from the first edits, especially just like this new structure is really, really working well. You're pushing the boundaries of form, which I really think is awesome. So you've really leveled up this essay in like a huge way. And so I think like some of it is just like, hey, let's just, clean it up, put a bow on it, and then bring those new tools to bear into a new essay. And you'll probably find that you're going to learn a lot more stuff in a fresh environment. Sort of like starting at a new job. You'll learn a lot more by jumping into kind of like a new environment. But yeah, overall, still a fantastic essay. Don't let my notes and my nitpicks be let you think to the contrary, because it was really a strong essay. I think I was really, really impressed with how it's evolved. I think we just need those couple of little tweaks, and just to really, really focus on the track. What is the theme? Everything has to stay on track. And I think do that, publish this thing, and it'll be really, really great. So overall, great work. I'm gonna jump over and read a weblog, at least the first chapter because it's getting late, of this weblog by Miak, one of our awesome viewers, and then I will sign off for the night because I am old and feeble. I am old and feeble. Fourth, fifth. Hey, I don't mean to be pushy, but you said that you did not have anything to edit, and I just submitted something. I'm not sure if it was rejected or if I. Oh, really? Where did you submit it? It might just have gotten lost in the slush here. I apologize. Thank you for reminding me, fourth, fifth. Oh, there it is. Oh, wow. You literally just submitted it. I was watching you decide to send my work in. I wanted to type more, but in short, I'm a new writer looking to improve. Awesome. Well, great. Then I just hadn't seen it. Fantastic. Let me just do it. Okay. So this is your call, fourth, fifth, because I'm pretty tired and it's pretty late. So I will always send a video edit of what we do. So I can still read Miak's thing tonight because I know he doesn't want very many notes and it can be a little bit more high level. But if you want to wait for a little while, I can probably give you a more in-depth edit. But if you just want some quick notes now and just say, hey, Final Boss, I just want a few quick, first page or two, just kind of give me some good stuff to work with, that's totally okay too. And then after you edit, you can always resubmit down the road. So let me know. I will pull this up in the meantime. And then I can also pull up Meox. Yep. Let me know, and I'll pull up Meox as well. So I'll probably only do, what do you think? Like probably 3 to 5 pages. Probably three to five of this one because I am getting pretty sleepy. But hopefully that'll be enough to go with. Change account. There we go. All right. You could just spend some time on it. Thanks so much. All right. Awesome. Cool. Well, if you're good with that, I am too. Yeah, dude, I totally. I mean, that's one of the reasons we started this stream. I know how challenging it is for those who are in the process of studying writing to get some feedback. So let me get some more water. I'll try to go as far as I can before I fall asleep on my keyboard. And then as you do revisions, feel free to send some more over, and I'll be happy to take a look at those as well. Yeah. It's one of the downsides of getting old, folks, is that you just kind of your head drops forward on the keyboard after a while, especially with some insomnia in the mix. That'll just about do the trick of knocking anybody out. Let me see if I can find a little snack though before I embark. I had it somewhere. It will enliven me. I'm just gonna grab these. There we go. All right. Use my time for. Oh, unless I thought you didn't want it to be edited, Miak. You have priority, Miak, because you've submitted your story first. So, did you actually want me? Because you were being so coy. I wasn't sure. All right. Sometimes you gotta say, "Final boss, read my stuff." Well, you were first because you submitted your stuff a couple of weeks ago. So, I will definitely do yours first. I just was not sure if that's what you wanted. So, let me know. You have about a minute to speak up. I'll go to the Discord and pull yours up just in case. Oh, use my time for that? Oh, I see. Is that what you... I'm getting confused. Okay. I'm just going to read this, and then if you want me to read yours, let me know. Because I wasn't sure. You kind of seemed like you were kind of good without it, but I'm open. I'm open. I have your slush post up in another window, so... yeah. You remember, guys, I'm really old and dumb. You gotta spell it out for me. Alright, flames surrounded Michael, his lungs filled with soot. He lifted his shirt over his nose and coughed. The fire closed in. So good. So I think we're starting with good visual experiential description. No worries. We'll get to Miyok. He's on my mind. I want to read his stuff, but I know he kind of doesn't. I don't know if you. Yeah, I'm not beginning a clear impression of whether you want me to do it live or not. It's all good. Okay. I am gonna read your stuff, but I know some people don't like it read live, so I kind of want to be respectful of that. Put enter here. With experiential prose. The one thing I would think about is surrounded. So remember, your first sentence, the thing that makes the most difference in your sentences is the subject verb, the base clause. So when you say flames surrounded Michael, you know, is there a better verb? Can you say like, roared around Michael? Can you say, you know, just exploded? The virus kills 1 in 3 people. It also only infects 1 in 3 people, but only 1 in 3 infected persons can transfer the virus. And of those, there's a 1 in 3 chance they'll find out how to spread it. Let's probably that an infected person successfully transfers the virus but doesn't die. A 1 in 3 persons can transfer the virus, and of those, there's a 1 in 3 chance they'll find out how to spread it. How to spread it? But isn't it the same thing as it only infects 1 in 3 people? So it'd be a third chance. Maybe. I'm just going to say that with confidence. 1 in 3. Now it'll probably be like 1 out of 6 or something. I don't know. But his gaze meant the better rifle. Mm. This is kind of a passive voice. Beware of passive construction early on in your essay. This might, or in your story. I mean, sorry, I'm still thinking essays, but it's kind of a bad rewriting. But remember, like a rifle barrel blocked his path, so like his gaze met with a rifle barrel. Like that verb, that base clause is getting broken up and chunked out. So remember, you're doing a great job thinking in terms of showing, don't telling. It seems, at least in this particular section. Um, but remember, when you are showing and not telling, you really want to think about that base clause. That will make the description more evocative. Is how do I center around the subject verb anchor of that sentence and make those the best 2 words possible. Virus is a bad case of chat trolling. Rude. Night, novelist. Take care. Thanks for stopping by. Dillian grinned and pulled the trigger. Beside Dillian. Sarah pressed her breast into his arm, blew Michael a kiss. Michael fell onto his knees and reached for his chest. Alright, so I think we need to pause and so like it's okay to not give too much scene description. I think we need to pause and get into some scene description here because I didn't know that Sarah. I don't know who Sarah is or why she's in this room. Um, you know, this indicates. Yeah, so I don't really know where they are. They're in a room, a hallway. So you can get away with it in like something like this. Like this first intro section, you can just lead with the action, but usually pretty soon after that, you're gonna have to pause. Um, you know, they stood, logged. They stood glaring. You know, um, you know. So give me some. This is kind of like a bad. I'm just like writing a few, and you're gonna want to have a little bit more here too. So it's like plus more. And I'm gonna move on so I can actually finish this revision. But you want a little bit of. We need to like you start with the action. That's totally great. That's totally fine. But we need to pause, give a little bit of scene, and then get on with the action. So one of the best it, one of the things they say a lot when you're studying screenwriting is if you want to learn how to write a script, a movie script, and how to film a movie, read Charles Dickens. Because he will, through his language, create close ups, zoom out, establishing shots, stuff like that. So, pretty much what's happening is think about it like you're thinking about a movie. That first paragraph you have is a hyper close up. It's just, Michael, the fire roaring around him, his face close up, him coughing, lungs filled with soot. So, like, it's just kind of a blurry close up. But eventually, in most film convention, and the next time you go see a movie, watch how they enter a scene when they start with an establishing shot and zoom in. There's usually two ways. They start with a big, wide establishing shot and zoom in, or more rarely, they'll start up close and kind of zoom out to give a sense of the scene. And this, you're starting up close. And so then you're going to want to think, okay, how do I zoom out? How do I start giving more context now that I've started with a very tight close up? Um, is he still speaking? Is this still dialogue? It needs to be in quotes. Michael woke up. A teacher stood up next to him and giggled, "Good morning. Am I dreaming? What's going on? Why am I here?" I would clarify that it's a dream life. Sorry, teacher, class is so boring. Is this dialogue? Hmm. So much is happening. No, those are his thoughts. I see. Okay, so you do, yeah. I say, why would she? I would think that. Why? No idea why. I think the best way, because thoughts, you usually won't have direct address in the thought. Like, why are you doing that? So when you're bringing that into thoughts, um, yeah, you don't even have to italicize because there's a tool called free and direct discourse where thoughts they don't always have to be italicized. So totally okay not to do that. No need to necessarily italicize, but I would just make sure that you have, because even if it was italicized, I would be asking why there's a direct address in thought. Because I don't think there's at least in my experience of my own thoughts and from what I've heard of others, you usually don't say, why would you do that? Because you're not actually talking to someone. You're saying, why is Sarah being so mean? It's usually in third person or in first person, like, why are they being so mean to me? It's not in direct address. So one thing to think about is, and I'll kind of write that in. Thoughts are seldom structured in fiction as direct address. Okay. So the one thing I'm kind of noticing is we're having trouble getting a sense of what the anchor, the reality is, right? So we're jumping between extreme thoughts, this fantastical, like, you've cheated me on the exam, and this very kind of hyperbolized, you know, bravado. So I'm having trouble because we saw that hyperbolized bravado in a dream sequence. So then this is probably, it feels like it's going to be another dream sequence that he's like, and then he's gonna wake up again in class and be like, oh, now I'm actually like the nerd, whatever. But we do really, that undercuts a lot of the potential development of your plot. Sometimes if you start simple, you'll actually have a lot better results in terms of like, because when you start simple, I can connect with a character, I can know what's reality. I'm having a little trouble um, finding an anchor of reality in this story. This mirrors this prose, this dialogue. Michael took a deep breath and left the classroom. Maybe that was cruel. Should I have blamed her for her future self's actions? Well, I think I could love her again either way. Thank God this is a small school. Okay, so I like that he believes that the dream was. I like that he believes that the dream, the manifestation of the future. Hmm. Thank you. Michael opened the door, nodded his head before he asked me to sit down. The principal nodded an instruction arm towards the chair before him. Of course. How can I help you? Michael sat down on a leather chair and took a deep breath. Touched his heart, reached for a Bible. He grabbed the principal's hand and held it. There's so much going on, and there's so much grabbing, and so the action is getting a little muddied. The okay. So those are his thoughts. Okay, sorry. Michael's not in a dream. He only assumes that he is because he just died. How can I change that impression? He is in a dream. Okay, so he is in a dream. So you want it to feel like he's not in a dream. Well, so a lot of what happens in film is think about what you're juxtaposing, right? So, you know, one of the old films, so novels and film, especially nowadays, function on very similar principles. So one of the oldest principles that you see in film is that if you see, someone have like a face and then all of a sudden it cuts to Slim Jims, you're going to say that guy's hungry. If you see, a face and it cuts to a book, it'll say that guy really wants to read that book. So a lot of it is what you're juxtaposing in the image level is what is controlling what the reader thinks about it. So what's happening here is you have a character dying and then waking up. Yeah, the character. This is an extreme situation, right? This is blood flying and this topless girl hugging this guy, or I think it was topless because and blew Michael a kiss. Yeah, so this like kind of random girl that he likes hugging this guy, very dramatic, very over dramatized, right? So it feels like it has like this kind of extreme action, and then you wake up. So that mirrors. So think about the experience you're mirroring. Usually, when I, the reader, have some extravagant thing going on, and then the next thing that happens is I wake up, I usually think that's a dream. So you'll want to build a transition here then. You'll want to build a different transition. So I think this breaks down at the transition level. So yeah, I would say this transition signals to me that this is a dream. The is a dream, since the setup is a crazy scene to wake up. Wakes up. Yep. So then teacher's abuse. Okay. So I don't really see. Yeah. But even if this is a dream, see, we even set up a dream again. Even set up the dream question again. So it gives, gives the whole story a broken sense of reality. Yeah, I think, gosh. I'm trying to think of some books that would be a good reference for you. Have you read The Metamorphosis by Franz Kafka? That is a good example of someone using kind of these crazy dreamlike situations in a scaled way in his story. Please come in. Michael Illuminor, may I sit down? Of course, how can I help you? I'm here to report the abuse of a teacher. What's going on? A lot of grabbing. I sort of want to tell the whole story. I will lend an ear if it helps in any way. This seems like a different register, different language. This dialogue. Yeah, so it feels like someone is suddenly speaking in a more archaic form of English, which kind of pulls one out of the story. Where I'm like, oh, why are we speaking in Old English now? That's different. I wasn't expecting that. My teacher, Mr. Richardson, is Sarah's mother. You might not be aware, but Sarah is my former girlfriend. The principal nodded and Michael continued. My teacher has been blackmailing me. My teacher and Sarah's mother. Sarah's been further girlfriend. What should I do? I think the depression did not help either. Cupped Michael's hands and pressed her forehead onto them. Cupped Michael's hands and pressed her forehead onto them. So is the school principal like grabbing her with his hands and going like this to Michael's hands? So think about some of the imagery. So because some of the mechanics, this move feels odd for a teacher-child relationship. Why are you so close? Can I test out? And then there's not every day I feel the pressure to want to escape it all. Okay, so again, so some things you'll want to notice are jumps in emotion. So Michael has been presented as very brash, very stoic. He talks back to people. So he suddenly is crying. Doesn't feel like it's within character. A character shifting from a very angry, confrontational, stoic person to someone who is choked up. Man, if I could spell today. Because someone helped them. Feels out of character. The principal smiled. Well, it's part of my job, and she got a few paper towels. Okay. I found her crying by herself. It's not that big of a deal. Father just died. I think everyone would have stood near her. I was a child then. I giggled like clearly the truth. Again, word choice. Maybe laughed. Giggled seems a little more like a lighter ha ha ha. So gift received. Do you wish to open? All right. This looks like it's going to be something of a lit RPG. The other thing I'd think about is we need to pause earlier and give some the teacher, Miss Richardson. Okay, I don't even know what I don't know if the principal's a male or female until quite a while. Let's pause. Let's pause here and describe principal's office and the principal. For a while, I wasn't even aware whether the was male or female, or what their name was. So these are important facts. Remember to pause when you get into a scene, expand a little bit, and then get back to the dialogue. Alright. The giggle thing. So again, this is starting to breach my flow of reality, because what a reader is looking for is they're looking for something that they can compare to real life and contextualize. So this is beginning to kind of get, there are actions and reactions that aren't fitting together. So like, he seems, you're awakened. You discover that as you discover, I can tell you a few things, but now life has changed. You decided you don't have action to tell you more. Yeah, okay. Again, we need to stop and get some scene description. What's happening in the scene when he shouts, putting to steal water bottling impossible. But what happened? What just happened? Another bottle put on the desk. You know, what's so impossible about pointing at a water bottle? Remember, we need to slow down and get some scene description, or it'll be hard to understand context dialogue. So you're giving a lot of good dialogue. There's interesting dialogue, but it's beginning to feel fractured and it's beginning to feel jumpy because there's not a scene underlying it that we understand that is clearly described by a narrator. So what I think I would recommend you to do is to really look at how other writers set up a narrator. Again, we need to stop and get some scene description on what's happening in the scene. There's not a clear source of truth in this story, so it's hard to find an anchor. The narrator can help give us context, or Michael can more actively narrate what's going on. So, food for thought there. A good book to read. So one of the things that I will recommend you do, and I'm going to write it in here, and I'm going to make it really big and loud, so that you hopefully will try it out. So, find a book you like, and different. I'll put little recommendations here. Colored highlighters, and highlight a chapter broken out by parts of speech. Then do the same to your story and compare. And then here's what to highlight, dialogue, thoughts, free and direct discourse. If you don't know what that is, just Google it. There's a lot of really good articles. Action, scene description, and what else? Summary. All right. So go through and go through a book and do different highlight colors of that. Oh, yeah, and the narrator, of course. Narrator's voice, if it has one. So do that. Trust me, trust me. This is the one thing I recommend to so many people, and I think it would be such a boon and a gift to their writing if more people did it. So I'm going to go ahead and call it tonight because I'm exhausted, but this is a really great start. I think it's a really fun story, kind of a cool lit RPG, this kind of multiple universe kind of feel to it. Though I think the things you want to work on is how do I build a concrete reality that all this stuff can happen around. I'll write that down. Yeah, don't forget to describe your scenes. Spend a paragraph describing the people in the scene, the objects in the scene, stuff like that. And then how look to find ways to make this to look for what the tell the reader what the reality is. There's so many rug pull moments that they start becoming ineffective because we don't even know where we're standing. I think it's ineffective. Yeah, that's what I meant. So yeah, those are my notes. I think thanks so much. You made really good points. The biggest being scene development. Yes, I would agree. I do think though, really, you're doing a lot of rug pulling. You're doing a lot of it's a burning building. Nope, it's actually a classroom. Nope, it's actually a video game. So you do that too much in the beginning of your story, your reader is going to check out because they're just like, well, I don't have any idea which one is real. I don't know what's going on. So be sure to spend some time telling the reader what is real and what is actually going on. Clarity is always, always, always more important than surprise. That is the one principle of writing. Don't try to, like, a temptation for so myself in my writing. I try to, kind of do all this cool stuff and kind of keep the reader guessing, but sometimes that just doesn't help. Sometimes it's best just to say, hey, look, this is what's going on. Clarity is the priority. Clarity is more important and interesting than surprise because you have a cool world. You have a cool setup. This lit RPG thing is awesome. So you don't need to have all these bells and whistles. Just get me to that, and I will be interested. Because that's a really cool setup. Um, so, like, clarity versus surprise. That if you ask two different people what's going on, they'll tell you the same thing. All right, and try that technique. Yeah, I wish I could stay up later, but I'm kind of about to clonk over on my keyboard. But I hope you all have a wonderful night. Thanks for hanging out, and I'm glad we finally got to do a stream that wasn't confidential, where I had to hide everything, so we could actually discuss writing for a change. So what a fun time, and I will see you all very soon, and best of luck and happy writing.